So hello everybody, welcome back. I hope that you like this video and that you find it helpful somehow. So anyway, grab your coffee, and if you wanted to share what you mean, you will add it. Links for that down below. And here we go. So I was rereading a book with my daughter, and it's in Spanish, but it is originated from the US. I think the name in English it's kind of like, do I have to do it? And the author is Patricia Sprinkle. Now, this book is extremely important to read because it has a lot of information about your kids and everything that feels like a burden in families and all kinds of things related to housework and family solving problems and things like this. So this book has data from the 1970s and the 1980s, and it is extremely important that you understand that when you have a problem in society, it doesn't originate in seconds unless it's a disaster or something like that. It actually goes back way back. So in the 1980s and the 1970s, people started feeling, thinking, believing, or experiencing all kinds of issues related to fights between generations. And so the generations started telling men, not women, but men. Remember, this is in 1970s, and the workplace was still dominated by men, and women were, not so much, thought after or whatever it was. And so they started saying that men were becoming lazy, and men were somehow becoming a problem in the workplace. Now, this is in the 1970s and 80s, right? And it is an experience to the point in which the government actually created a committee by the health department, the education department, and I think it was one or two more areas or departments, and they needed to study the ethic of work. Now, ethic meaning if you're going to do a job, you are supposed to have integrity, meaning you're supposed to show up, you are supposed to get the fair pay, you are supposed to be punctual, you're supposed to be respectful, you are supposed to be grateful for each other, as in both the employer has to be grateful that they can find employees, and employees have to be grateful that they can find an employer. So basically, it's kind of like a blessing in disguise for everybody involved. And so, the ethic of work, meaning if I hire you, I'm not going to exploit you. And if you are hired, then you gotta give your best, do your best. And so it's extremely important that all of these things are taken into consideration when you're handling the workplace. Now, you're not supposed to be a slave, okay? That one was a given. And so the ethics of work that they were asking was, what was it that now 1/4 of men, and remember, this is the 1980s and the 1970s, 1/4 of men were no longer getting married, they were no longer buying a house when they got a job, they were no longer dating, they were no longer basically doing anything. So if you're thinking that right now we have a problem because men don't care, yeah, that didn't start right now. It started in the 1980s and in the 1970s, by the way. And so they found that 1/4 of men were actually staying at their parents' house. They did not leave their parents' house. And so it was creating family friction, and it was also creating new problems. The reason being, well, you are an adult, and as an adult, you have needs for going out, and you also have needs for having sex. So, what are you going to do about those things, despite the fact that you now live at your house and now you are with your parents in the middle of the thing? It's because before, if you wanted to have sex, you already had your wife. I mean, you were dating somebody. 3/4 of men were still dating. They were getting married, and they were getting sex by their wives and all kinds of things. So it wasn't a big deal. And also, kids were being raised by both men and women, and everything was like that. However, at this point, if you have 1/4 of men and they are meeting their sex needs without having to get married, and without having to provide a house, and without having to put the effort into achieving stability for the both of them, but rather you just go kind of like, okay, I have a lot of nightstands, that's it. I don't care. I go home. I go with my parents. I don't have to work. All I have to do is make a little bit of money. Then I can go out on the weekend, pay a girl a little bit of money, and then have sex. And then I don't have to worry about anything else. Now, this means that you change. 1/4 of men changed their mental settings, and they actually got weaker. The reason being, well, when you don't have a partner, remember, women are there to provide the emotional support and to provide stability, and also to provide you with your family, which means that you are needed. Basically, even if you hate your wife, even if you hate your kids, even if you hate your life, you still cannot give up, because you are needed. You made a decision and now you are absolutely needed. Now, it sucks because I'm going to tell you right now, it sucks for both men and women. Reason being, well, you didn't experience life before you were married, and there were a lot of issues with this lifetime, and it was too routine, and for some people it was also too constraining. And so the liberation came to the extreme, the other extreme, meaning I have absolutely no one that needs me, and no one that cares about me, and no one that even bothers. And if you're thinking that, okay, my parents need me, whatever, yeah, I'm sorry, but I am going to tell you right now that psychologically speaking, you might be feeling like a failure if you stay home, precisely because you didn't achieve anything, and because you know that you should have done a lot of things, and so it didn't happen for one reason or another one, and it will create lots and lots and lots of frustration for you. And so, because now you know that you're an adult, and you know that you're supposed to control your life, but you don't, for, like I said, whatever reason. And this study was done used to ask what people think that was the reason for all of these things happening. And so, it was interesting. The parents said that it was the government's fault, because now houses were too expensive and wages were not keeping up, and basically the economic settings created by the government were lacking, and therefore all the opportunities that they used to have because the government used to be good now were gone, and therefore the government is to blame. Then the parents, that is the parent side. Then goes the men's side, and the men go kind of like, it is unfair and I cannot find any job for me. The reason being, well, if I'm going to graduate as an engineer, then I am not going to go to a company to start as an assistant of an engineer. I am an engineer, therefore I need the assistant. The assistant should be given to me. I am not going to be the one who does the assistant. You know what I mean? So basically, it was kind of like, now we are all getting smarter, as in academically smarter, not life smarter or workplace smarter, as in experience or whatever it is, just academically. Academically, we're getting smarter, and therefore we are now engineers. I decide that if I go to a company, we need to be the head of the engineering department. And then men became arrogant. Men became extremely arrogant. Okay, and this was in the 1980s. Then you have now to ask the employers, as in the ones that do the interviews and the ones that hire people. Now, they were saying, number one, people, as in both men and females, are getting arrogant when they go to the job place, because they come here and they're thinking that they need to be. It's almost like they said, I'm the CEO of the company just because I graduated and I have an MBA. And I'm sorry, what the hell? You know? So you're thinking that you should be the CEO, even though that you know nothing about the company or whatever it is. So basically, reality check started kicking in for a lot of people. And at this point, there will be the veil of these differences begin to fall and begin to form in some cases. And it was beyond the insanity level, okay? Now, at this point, she mentions that a couple of people were given examples, as in how people were being arrogant and how disconnected they were from the actual jobs. And so there was a woman who was extremely smart, and she was the most promising to become an actual manager and things like this. So she was doing an internship, and she was supposed to nail it, okay? So basically they told her, once you pass the internship, you will be given the manager position. But as soon as she started working, number one, she started showing up with friends at work, meaning she was working and she was getting friends visits at her place, at her place where she's supposed to be working. And then she also started showing up a little bit late because the job was already done. So it was kind of like, I overdid it yesterday and the job is done, so now I don't need to show up today at on time and things like this. And so, when they told her, you didn't pass the internship and now the managerial position will not be given to you, she just, shrugged her shoulders and said, oh, I figured, it's okay, I don't bother, I'll go to a next company, another company that actually values me, and blah, blah, blah. And then, the lady said, the HR department said, look, this is going to go into your employment record. And she was looking at them like, what the hell is an employment record? And what the hell do you mean? And what is that? And why do I need to care? I am good and your company sucks, kind of thing. And basically, women and men both started becoming arrogant at the same time, saying, we are too much and we are not appreciated by the people who are in charge, or and it was a fight that is still happening, by the way. But the point is, if in the 1970s and 80s people did not know that there was something called employment record, and there was something like a talk between HR, HR management things, like the human resource management thing, then what do you think is going to happen now? when people can't even read. So if you translate what that book says, that it was happening in the 1970s and 80s, compared to right now the situation is even worse. Because now, see, before you were academically speaking getting better, but now you have kids who are into college right now, college now, not the kids who are 5 or 10 years old and cannot read or whatever. No, I'm talking college, okay? The college students right now, 2024, 2025, they are going to the professors and they are begging to change the books because they cannot read one book per subject. They cannot even read half of the book for a semester, for an entire semester. So in 6 months, most of the college students cannot manage to read half a book, not even for one subject, let alone for all of the subjects that they are supposed to be studying. So, academically speaking, now everybody's getting worse and worse and worse. And you could argue that it doesn't matter since you have Mr. Google. However, you should know that if the internet fails, which, by the way, it does fail a lot, because remember, a lot of people think that the internet is on the air. No, internet is actually transmitted through the air, but it is not on the air. Internet is actually it actually requires lots, tons, hundreds of thousands of circuits and memories and servers and cables and towers and power and all kinds of things to make it work. And basically, if you shut down several things like bridges, if you shut down bridges that go from one place to the other one, and they have the cables inside the bridges, then one side will not have internet at all, no matter what they do. And you're thinking, what the hell? Yeah, it's kind of like that. So if you have no internet for whatever reason, then what do you think is going to happen to your brain? And what do you think is going to happen to your job when you cannot read and you cannot do math, like basic, simple, very, very, very basic arithmetic, not even math per se? Because remember, math has, I think, seven options to it. So there is a space, there is measurements, there is capacities and other stuff related to the engineer and the numerical aspect of things, as in patterns. Then there is the countings and the proportions, as in the statistics and all kinds of things related to that. And then there is the basic one, which is you counting and adding and subtracting, as in I have 5 apples, and if I'm going to buy 10 more, then how many apples will I get? And if I'm going to a party that has 25 people, will that be enough, or should I buy more? Kind of like that. So you can't even do basic math that has only 2 digits, or sometimes even 1 digit. I have seen videos of people in TikTok asking, if I go 100 miles per hour to a trip that takes 1 hour, how many miles did I manage to do? And then people can't answer that. I'm going to say that again, just so that you try to get it. So you're going 100 miles per hour, and then you travel only 1 hour. How many miles did you did you travel, or did you go from zero to that point? And nobody, the TikTok thing was going for more. I think it made fun of about 40 people, and out of those 40 people, who are all less than 30, okay, not 30 or more, because people who are 30 or more can tell you immediately, of course, if you're going 100 miles per hour, that means 1 hour equals 100 miles. What the hell? Why is that so difficult? But people who were 30 or less could not tell that it was just 100 miles. There was a lot of people that says 80. There were people that were saying 5. There were people that were saying 60. There were people that were like, how many hours? And then they didn't even understand what miles per hour means. And so that is basic math, okay? That is the kind of math that you're supposed to learn when you are in the primary grades, as in, first grade, second grade, or even third grade. And so it was one of those things that it gets you to think, okay? Because before, you could argue, by the way, and you will be right, saying, I am academically too smart for you, because I know all the formulas and I know all the math, and basically I'm kind of like a genius, so what the hell, why will I be assistant? That is understandable. That point of view is kind of understandable. However, if right now you're going to do the same, I have to ask, these generations who are less than 30 cannot do basic math, and you are telling me that they deserve to be the CEOs, stuff like that. And so the arrogance for the generations that come after the 1980s is unfounded. The reason being, well, the 1980s and 70s people had the proper means to say, hey, I'm arrogant because I can, okay? But now, you cannot say the same. Because you could say that you have all the technology, you could say that, programming or whatever it is, but you cannot read, but you cannot talk to people, but you basically cannot be away from your phone because otherwise you might die, and stuff like that. And basically you are saying that you have the means to say that you can be arrogant as hell, because basically just you can, and whatever it is. And so basically the whole problem that started in the 1980s, where men became weaker. This tells you a lot of things. Number one, you're not supposed to have weaker men in society. You're supposed to have stronger men. And stronger men does not mean that you are going to have, all the men going out like, I'm Rambo and I'm going to shoot everything my way, What the hell? Or saying something like, oh, I'm this guy and I'm arrogant as I want because I have money and blah blah blah. No, what the hell? That doesn't work either. So the 1980s definitely men were becoming weaker, because now they were kind of like, I don't need anything. All I need is my dick. And I can get all the women. All I need is buy alcohol. And women are sluts. So what the hell? So congratulations. You just made women weaker. Which, by the way, women were already weaker. And we are already crazy. And we don't care. But now we don't even get to be women. Because women need to be the support part, and women need men to be able to expand and show abundance. You cannot show abundance if there is no prosperity, meaning you cannot be a full woman if you don't have a man that supports you enough to do that, and you cannot be a man if you don't have a woman that shows you how capable you can be, because there is nobody that absolutely needs you and nobody that relies upon you. Okay? And I'm not saying that you cannot be the best doctor or career or whatever it is, because your career has nothing to do with your role in terms of your home and your society. You see, your kid, when he's 1 or 2 years old, he's not asking, is my dad the best doctor there is? No, she or he just goes, that's my dad. That I love him no matter what, because he's my dad. And that kid is not asking how much money is my dad making every day, so that I can know how much I want to love him more because he's making money. No, that kid loves you because they absolutely need you and because they absolutely rely upon you. They have basically nobody. They only care about how masculine you are because you can solve the problems, and because on how feminine you are as the mom, because that way you can fix everything that's wrong. Basically, the dad will solve all the problems. Like, oh my God, the sky is falling. Don't worry, that's here. We are going to build a shelter. And then you go kind of like, oh mom, I'm injured. And then mom says, oh, don't worry about it. I already have my first aid kit and I already have everything. And I'm going to fight the freaking floor for hitting you. Okay? So don't worry about it. The floor is not going to hit you anymore. and so, you have two protectors. One that is completely like out of the world and out of the blue and is ready for almost anything and can become anything, which is the woman. And then you have one that will fix no matter what. They will provide for you, which is the man. But now, in the 1970s and 80s, men had a lot of kids that they don't even know they have, because you are having a lot of nightstands and you're thinking, well, I just had sex, I don't care. Today I didn't wear condoms, I don't care, or the condom broke or whatever. Also, who the hell cares? How many men have been with this woman? I don't even care. I don't even bother. So this woman has your child. You don't even know. And now, you have a family that you as a man never ever provided for. Basically, you were needed, but you were never there. And for all I know, you didn't even care. So this family of yours is growing resentment towards men because they are alone when you were supposed to be there. And the thing is, you didn't know. Reason being, well, it's your fault. As in, you are a woman and you should have known that you are not supposed to get pregnant. You should have been taking the birth control pill or whatever. What the hell? I don't know you and blah, blah, so I already did my part. I paid for your alcohol today. So since I paid for your alcohol today, then it is your fault. Kind of like that. And so the family started to break down. And men were no longer needed, or at least they felt that way. And women, both men and women, became arrogant because they were smart. But just because you're smart doesn't mean that you are intelligent. And that does not mean that you are a better human being. And it doesn't mean anything. It just means that now you are capable of using your brain. Big deal. Your ancestors were probably better, despite the fact that they could not use their brains. But now, the situation is becoming even worse. Because now, the resentment is building up and everything is becoming worse and worse and worse. And if you want to know why, then that one is your reason. Is because men were becoming weaker. It's not their fault, by the way. It's just how things went. The reason being, they were not able to afford a house and they were not able to afford women. And because they couldn't afford women, but they still needed sex, now they're getting sex for free. And the consequences of you having sex for free and the consequences of porn The consequences of you thinking that, okay, I'm stronger because my partner is weaker, that is the root of the problem. So, I'm going to say it again. You cannot make yourself stronger by making everybody else weaker. That's not how it works.